I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV, and if you are just joining us, welcome on board. It's always a pleasure to have all hands on deck. I'm dealing with a lot of paperwork here because the issues that we are trying to come to terms with today are very, very pertinent. And for the Kickstarter, let's get underway with something that is taking Africa, of course, by huge wave. I have with me a guest, the Executive Director at the Global Rights Alert, and she'll be talking to us about energy transition and the extractives. The importance of this particular conversation is that it has women and young people as drivers that must be included in this conversation across Africa. How that is going to be achieved, of course, she has it all, including other stakeholders. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing? Great. When I heard the energy transition and seeing what is happening across Africa, this conversation became more pertinent than it can ever be at any one point in time. It also comes on the backdrop of a convention that seeks to hammer down how young women, and young people rather, and women are critical players in this equation. I'll want to hear a lot of that. But what is Global Rights Alert?
Thank you. Global Rights Alert is a civil society organization that works to ensure that our natural resources are managed well and the benefits are distributed equitably so that young people, old people, everyone gets to benefit from the resources that we have through better service provision, through access to cleaner energy and effective energy, and through inclusive development. So we work around climate justice, which is a big global issue right now. We work on corporate accountability and transparency, which means we want to see how governments and companies, mining, or those that are involved in oil are managing our resources and how they are treating people and communities. And also work to enhance citizen participation, which means that you and I should have the ability, the skill, and the knowledge to contribute to development, to resolving problems that are caused by extraction of oil, gas, or minerals, but also to question how our natural resources are managed and how investments are being made.
Okay.
Yes.
Very significant to keep your eyes on the transition and what it means for Uganda. Everyone is looking at the energy sector, most specifically oil. The promise is huge.
Yes.
And no doubt the kind of intervention you're undertaking is commendable. So give us an overview of the Citizens Convention on Extractives and its significance in shaping that discussion.
So maybe I should just start by talking about what energy transition means.
Perfect.
And then I can go into specifics of the convention. So what does energy transition mean? In layman's language, it means moving away from using the bad sources of energy to a better, cleaner source of energy. In rural communities where most of us grew up, we know that we used wood to cook, to light, to have fire. Still many people use wood up to now, and they're cutting trees every day, burning charcoal and selling it. We know that there are people who don't have access to electricity and solar and wind energy and all gas for cooking. So energy transition is that shift from one stage to another. And so why are we talking about energy transition? Because globally the temperatures are rising. And so there's a concern of climate change crisis, which is already impacting us. We are seeing prolonged droughts, we are seeing floods, we are seeing crops that are not yielding as they used to do. We are seeing that we are having hunger, and we are having all these other negative impacts because of the climate change crisis.
That's right.
How is that relevant to Uganda? Uganda has the weak capacity to survive the climate crisis. We are not very well positioned. I think we are about number 173 out of 185 countries. That's how we are ranked.
Okay.
It means
ability
that
to respond.
Yes, the ability to respond to the climate crisis is low.
Okay.
So we are very vulnerable. And so in 2006, we discovered oil. Oil, gas are termed as fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels.
So fossil fuels globally contribute 3/4 of global warming of the greenhouse emissions. So if we are to extract our oil, we are going to be contributing
to that.
Africa is definitely not contributing as much as of now to the global climate crisis, because we don't have a lot of industries, we have not mechanized many things, and we're not exploiting our resources. And so there is a dilemma. Should we then go ahead and extract our oil because we are poor?
And
the continent is poor. Over 600 people don't have access to electricity. Ugandans are still using charcoal and wood to cook. So should we extract our oil, or should we move on and transition to solar and other sources of energy, and we leave oil in the ground? So this convention now, the Citizens Convention on Extractives this year, is going to be the 7th year. And what is it doing? It's bringing together citizens as a major thing, to interface with investors in oil and gas and mineral sector, to interface with government, to interface with young people who are innovating and asking questions of how are we positioned to transition. Because globally the campaign has already started. So we must transition at some point. And we know that the government last year at COP28, they launched the Energy Transition Plan, which indicates how Uganda wants to shift to better energy from wood, from fossil fuels, and from other unhealthy sources of energy. But the question is how? What is it that is needed? And what can the youth and women play in that transition conversation and in doing the actual things that are needed? And we know that usually when big conversations are going on, energy transition, first of all, is a very technical thing. Extractives is as confusing as it gets. But when women and young people are not catered for, as always, they end up being victims. But we know that they are the biggest resource if we tap into that. So we are bringing women together and young people together and government agencies, accountability agencies, to say what is the role of the youth? What are they contributing to the debate? How are they shaping the policies? How are they shaping the actions and the agenda for transition? But also, how is the transition likely to impact on them if they are not considered? So women, young people, and of course we have the, the old people who are in the thing, driving the, the industry, and because it's intergenerational debate, so also are going to be having them in the room for today. Yes.
So that falls well within the theme that focuses on cross-generational and just energy transition.
Yes.
And let me just keep on the cross-generational, because the debates in so many corridors of governance and boardrooms is that how does the older generation leave the mantle to the new generation in all aspects of either business, politics and society. Now that we are looking at the extractives, where we know for sure that across the country there are places where young men, women and girls are actually involved in this labor, extractives, minings and stuff like that. For example, I was watching a story from Namayingo and the gold that is there. And you see a whole group of women and young people doing that. I do not know whether there is a concerted effort on the part of the older generation to ensure that the discussion not only allows the young ones in the room, but to actually sit on the table, because that's the question. People are concerned about the fact that so many conversations have stayed the young people and women in rooms, but they are not sitting on these tables. And that's where the whole issue is. As Global Rights Alert, what is the magic bullet?
Yes. So we know that being at the table could mean two things. Either you're influencing or you're the menu. And so we are saying that women and young people are not the menu. And so it starts with what are we doing and how are we planning to do that. I know that in the oil and gas sector, for example, they have sponsored so many young people to go to universities to read about the industry, to read about oil, to read about the money. So we have quite a big group of young people that are educated and have the skills, but perhaps they lack the years of experience. And the only way they're going to get the years of experience is by being given assignments and tasks to undertake and to lead on. And it's everywhere, even in NGOs where we are working, in businesses, private or government. We have to make sure that we give them the opportunity to inform the business plans, to inform the country plans, to inform community plans. Then they will know what their responsibility is, they will know what they are contributing to, and they will know how to measure progress towards what they are contributing to. We very much like the wisdom that comes with experience, you know, that from the old people, from maybe old people is a bad word to use, from senior citizens.
Older persons.
Yeah, older persons, senior citizens.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that, and we want to make sure that there is enough interaction, verbally, virtually, so that we keep asking questions. How is this done? What has your experience been like? What has not worked? What has worked? And so we move onto better and modern times.
Okay. All right, complete the submission maybe.
Yes, I know that government agencies are there that help to mentor, for example, business people, to incubate ideas. I know that NGOs also have mentorship programs. I know that oil companies and mining companies also have mentorship programs, but particularly in the mining sector, actually, we see fathers going with sons into the mines. We see mothers going with children, which is wrong, into the mines. But if a father is going with a son into the mine, we expect that in the next 10 years, they are no longer using the hoe. The son has learned that there's gold here, but then the mechanization is coming in, the better mining methods are being improved on, and also the technology is available, and the trading is better, so that the son can earn much better than what the father and or the mother from the mining sector.
All right, when we look at the extractive sector right now, I think there is the question should be, is there sufficient mechanisms to allow for these people to engage constructively, or we still have bottlenecks that need to be addressed, and if they are, could you highlight some of them?
The oil and gas sector, so far we know we have 1.45 billion barrels of oil that we can extract. And the sector is very highly mechanized. So there is work around the construction of the EACOP, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, and that has engaged people and is going to engage people maybe for the next 3 years until the pipeline is done. But after that, it's going to be more of the skilled labor that are in the industry, and it won't be very many people at that point.
That's right.
The potential for Uganda is actually in the mining sector.
In the mining sector.
The country is full of minerals, and I think we don't understand how rich we are as a country, and perhaps it also shows how government has not communicated much about our potential for investing in the mining sector, potential for jobs and mechanization and the trade in the mining sector. So there is a bit of lack of knowledge around that, but if the sector is very well organized, the mining sector, it's going to be a game changer, much more than the oil sector that we are looking at. Tin, copper, cobalt, marble, go to Karamoja, go to Kisoro, go to Buweju, go to Busia. We have minerals, but how we are managing them, who is accessing them, how that is being regulated is very discouraging. So we need to see information on how do I apply for a license if I'm a Ugandan and I want to get into the sector. How am I supported to acquire land so that I can do exploration and understand whether I have minerals here or not. And it's a very expensive industry. The studies are very expensive. The exploration is very expensive. Where is the financing to enable a younger person, a group perhaps, or individual, to get into the industry when I don't have security as the banks would want? So that hinders access to the industry and also limits the number of people that can participate. The other thing, of course, is the lack of protection gears in the mining. The safety is a very big thing for them to work. It is the access to machinery. It is also the lack of support. So you're an artisanal miner or a small scale, you're competing with a small scale miner who is also competing with a large scale miner. So the level is not grounded. And if we don't ground the level, if we don't support the young people to mechanize and to move from rudimentary tools, hoes and things like that, to better tools, then we are keeping them poorer, because they're not going to be able to harvest a lot to be able to sell. The other thing, of course, I talked about is the market. The market is very hard to understand. We have very many middlemen in between. URA is taxing people right, left and center. And so if that is not cleaned up and the licensing process is not well understood and functional, then it limits us. Now we have the online application system at the Ministry of Energy, as you might know, but how many
when you
women,
look at those that are involved in the sector itself,
yes, and access technology,
they don't even have smartphones.
They don't have smartphones. Even if they have smartphones, they don't understand the technicalities. Yes, they're not tech savvy. But also the system sometimes has glitches. And the response when they have difficulties is very hard because it is centralized. So it seems like the Ministry of Energy in NTV has to be the one to answer all these questions. They're understaffed, they're under-resourced, and that discourages investors, of course. Yes.
Briefly talk to us about the Extractives Industries Transparency Initiative.
It's a global standard. It's a global practice that brings together oil companies, mining companies, civil society organizations, and governments to open up about the industry, the extractives industry. Extractives industry is where we have oil, gas, and minerals, and ask what are our minerals in specific countries, what are our minerals, who is investing in the mineral sector, what kind of terms and conditions do we have with them as a country, what taxes are they supposed to be paying, what taxes are they paying, how is that money being invested in the country, and whether the benefits are reaching the intended beneficiary or the target person. And it's while it's a global standard, it is very country specific. So for Uganda, for example, it's led by a group called the Stakeholder Group, which has reps from government, civil society, and oil companies. And so the Ugandan stakeholder group sat and said, what do we want to focus on? How many companies do we have? Can we look at all the mining companies, or should we look at a few mining companies and a few oil and gas companies? So the country sets its standards. It sets its standards. And now they're in the process of producing the third report, which is submitted to the International Secretariat on EITI, and it is validated, and then feedback is given. But the most important thing is that EITI provides, the basic platform for us as citizens to begin asking questions. And also offers us the necessary data to make meaningful decisions on where you want to either invest or engage. But you can only do that, it can only benefit you as a country if indeed the loopholes you face, you see in the process are addressed. Otherwise it becomes a ritual of understanding the sector, understanding the challenges and bottlenecks, and then moving on if you don't respond to the gaps that are identified. So EITI is going to be discussed indeed at the convention that is happening today. And other accountability mechanisms. Of course, it also supports the usual accountability mechanisms that we have. We have the Auditor General's office that is always, auditing the sector. We have the Bank of Uganda that is always giving us reports. So EITI is part and parcel of the conversation. And we're also going to be focusing on the innovation in this convention, because as I said, that we don't want the youth and women to be the menu. So we are looking at what are they contributing to the energy transition, what innovations do they have. We have private sector in the room, and we want to see whether private sector can support access to financing, to skilling, to markets, so that the youth can tap into the potential of the transition.
Wow, thank you very much for the perspective, Ms. Winfred Ngabire, Executive Director at the Global Rights Alert, and congratulations on the convention. We do hope the discussions and deliberations that are going to be undertaken become as very effective as expected. That's it for this Kickstarter discussion. Stay with us. It's bottom of the hour of 8 o'clock. Morning at NTV continues. We'll be right back.